Let's take a look at some information and charts on Sushiswap for BraveNewCoin. Sushi, a fork of Uni initially, and now has sort of found its own identity by going multi-chain and offering a myriad of services, lending, leverage, staking, all sorts of fun stuff. 14 different chains. We'll take a look at some of that information across the chains. ETH is still the most popular currently, and I guess I was just completely out of the loop here, but I didn't realize sushi.com was actually the domain. I thought it was sushiswap.com. I didn't realize it redirected to that. They actually bought this, or a crypto VC did, in February 2021. Pretty cool that they actually have that domain. But anyway, as with any exchange, you need to look at volume. If it's a DEX, you need to look at what do the pools look like? What do the AMM components look like? Do people care? What are the fees? What's the TVL? That sort of stuff. So volume has picked up since July, August. It's not quite to the crescendo that was May, but it is slowly picking up over time for Sushi. TVL is effectively at all-time highs or back to all-time highs with the multi-chain stuff. And there's just so much you can do. You know, it's like a playground where it's got the jungle gym, the swings, the other stuff people play on a jungle gym, on a playground rather. There's just so much stuff you can do on Uni or Sushi to keep you there relative to Uni, the competitor. For me, Uni is kind of more linear in the traditional DEX sense, whereas Sushi as a competitor is doing what they need to do, going multi-chain, adding all these features, doing all this stuff to bring people to the table, to bring attention to Sushi relative to Uni. A lot of people like one or the other more. I think the bridgers appreciate Sushi because you can use Sushi to bridge and go multi-chain, whereas Uni is probably forever going to be solely on Ethereum. But if we look at the volumes here, Sushi is usually number 2 as a percentage on a daily basis. On a weekly basis, they're holding that slot most of the time. Sometimes they're pretty close to Uni, honestly, and then some days they are less than half of Uni's volume. And on a monthly basis, in the blue here, the biggest volume month was May, and it's kind of flattened out a little bit since then. But this could also be just on ETH and not necessarily all the other chains. ETH fees need to stay low in order for DEXs to thrive, in order for retail folk to not get priced out of the transactions. And if we look at TVL across the board, TVL is definitely at an all-time high across everything. TVL on ETH also definitely at all-time highs here. And for Sushi, multi-chain, it's in the top 10 here, 5.5 billion in TVL. And again, most of that is sitting on Ethereum, 4.6 billion there. And the second most looks like Polygon and Arbitrum, along with some staking stuff. But according to DeFi Llama, TVL definitely basically sitting at all-time highs here. Look at the bank, which I like to look at for the stats of more than just volume and TVL. Transactions still rising here. This is just ETH, by the way. Transactions still rising. Users definitely rising. Oracle calls kind of flattened down. But it's really great to see people actually using this stuff on the exchange side of things. Is that going to influence token price? I don't know, but at least there's some fundamental baseline here for the DEX. It's not like the token is just left out to dry, because there is fundamental activity going on ETH side of things. And you can look at all the individual chains. I'll just look at Polygon here, but if there's data for it. Sometimes there isn't data for it. Not really that much data. Let's try Arbitrum if I can find it. I think it's this one. No data there either. Hopefully over time, all this stuff will get aggregated and we can just see a stacked bar graph or something showing all this information together. But I think the bottom line with this breakdown is transactions and users steadily rising since the beginning of the year, which is what you want to see for any exchange. On the token side of things, transaction counts basically at all-time lows here, starting to pick up slowly. So hopefully if you're bullish, we're going to start to see some activity on price within the next few weeks here. Average transaction value is just flat. Nothing really important to talk about there. NVT basically at all-time highs. That's market cap relative to on-chain activity. You want to see that low or falling, so that's definitely not bullish. Active addresses declining to multi-month lows. Again, not something you want to see if you're bullish. So hopefully over the next couple of weeks, we'll see an uptick in transactions and active addresses. And if we look at MVRV, which is another measure of market cap relative to on-chain activity, for most coins, this tops out at around a 2x multiple. For DeFi, it hasn't really been helpful, probably because the on-chain activity just doesn't really influence price that much. So you can see MVRV just held at 1.4 for months as price went higher and higher and higher. Maybe you could argue there's some sort of div here. I don't know, but I don't really see a signal. Currently, we're at 0.95. Now, if we're at all-time highs in price and MVRV is at 3, then yeah, we're probably going to pull back. But I wouldn't necessarily use MVRV for DeFi like I use it for BTC and ETH. I think it's much more valuable for coins versus tokens like DeFi stuff. If we look at the revenue of Sushi relative to everyone else, it has protocol as well as supply side revenue. So it at least has some baked in revenue for users, some rev share, regardless of supply, whereas Uni is all supply. Now, Uni is double Sushi's annualized revenue, but it's all based on volume. If we look at the PE ratio equivalent, this is market cap over annualized revenue, Sushi is the lowest multiple, so the best buy using this metric in a vacuum, relative to its competitors. SNX, Maker being two of the worst multiples here, the most bearish or the most overvalued relative to their competition here in the DeFi landscape. And Sushi is perpetually the lowest multiple. So if you're a PE ratio believer, Sushi is the coin for you. Sushiswap on Google Trends actually surprisingly pushing all-time highs here, pushing 4 all-time highs. So I definitely like seeing this relative to where price sits, because price is kind of flatlining here. Moving on technicals, 5200 cross, monthly pivots, VPVR and volume, along with RSI at the bottom here. Volume's flat, price is flat, RSI is flat. Ideally, this is what you want to see at the beginning of a trend. Just boring nothingness. Sushi really needs to hold above the 200, above the 50, needs to hold this range, needs to survive and outlast whatever happens until DeFi as a whole gets bullish again. You don't want to see this drop below 5, drop below 6, drop below 7 before it has a chance to actually break the range above 15. So the best case for Sushi is probably just holding this range until all of DeFi lifts off, which I assume happens mid to late Q4. Now, come Q1 2022, I expect all this stuff to just go back to where it was pre-Q1 2021. This massive dumpage across the board is what I expect. So this time frame is relatively short for me, for Sushi, Uni, all of the DeFi stuff, to actually make a move here. I think this could potentially 2-3x from here, just like everything else. And anything above 15 and we're good to go. On the cloud, it is below the cloud, bullish cloud, bearish TK cross. So it's more bearish than bullish, but into November, you want to see this thing above 11, above 12 for early signs of bullish continuation. So collectively, what you want to see is these EMAs curling up along with price above cloud. Price breaking the range at 15, again, you're good to go for all-time high retest plus. Now, against BTC, just like Uni, this looks the most bearish it's probably ever looked. It's got a death cross here. It attempted a bull cross, that failed in August, and now it's breaking below range support. So this thing looks like it's probably going to the VPVR support, the monthly pivot. There's no bullishness here. There's not even a div yet. So if I'm rotating into this from BTC, I'm waiting for a bull div. I'm waiting for a stab down much lower than current price. I'm waiting for volume to spike up, some sort of capitulation, because as it sits here, this is a fresh bear trend. And it honestly could go, I think this is 6,000 sats actually. I think it could go that low before it actually bounces. So definitely worth a watch if you're looking not only for BTC rotations, but just strength in alts. I would look at these BTC pairs because you'll see evidence for that rotation about to happen, assuming it happens, which I think it will. Specifically on RSI, just watch RSI. Watch RSI, watch volume. On the ETH pair, it looks no better. It broke the volume low quite some time ago. No bull div just yet. there's no bullishness here. This is just, it looks like Zcash, honestly, just slow bleed down, perpetual. It attempted mean reversions multiple times that got smacked down against BTC and ETH. I do not expect Sushi to do well in the near term, but again, watch what happens by mid-November. By mid-November, we should start to see some rotations. So we got a month. We'll start to see some rotations into alts when they bottom out. Probably by mid-November, you'll see some ugly charts that nobody wants to buy. That's probably a good time to get in. Then you'll see ETH and BTC continue to lift off after Thanksgiving in the US and into December. And then by mid-early December, alts should see significant strength. So if the timing is correct, you want to be rotating into this stuff by mid-November, is my guess. Not investment advice. I'm just an analyst after all, but that's what I'd be watching for. So lastly, I will briefly discuss the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio I trade for Techemy Capital and Enzyme.finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can see everything, including AUM performance allocation. You can see we have Sushi at a 4.6% allocation currently, and you can also see the trades in the trades tab down below. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.